The Quest 2 has a fast growing library of some awesome VR games. But in this video, we are going to be counting down the best VR games for your Quest 2 headset. Now this list will include games that you can play by just using your Quest 2. That means that big PC VR titles like Boneworks and Half-Life Alyx, but also free games and applications are not on this list. And with that said, let's count down the top 24 games that you can get for your Quest 2. Starting off with number 24, and that is Blade and Sorcery Nomad. Now this is one of the most entertaining combat titles that you can get right now. This game places you in a medieval setting where you use your weapons and your shields to fight through waves of enemies in what they call arena mode. Or you can choose to sneak through dungeons in a new addition that they added to the game. Now what makes Blade and Sorcery so special is that it is a physics-driven game. That means you can have complex interactions that are similar to games like Boneworks and Half-Life Alyx, where you for example have to swing your weapons with extra force or piercing mechanics that look almost too realistic. Now throw in some extra magic and a big community with mod support and you have yourself an amazing VR title. Number 23. I Expect You to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar. Now for those who don't know the I Expect You to Die series, this is a classic VR puzzle game. And the reason the first game is not on this list is simply put because the sequel was even better. Now this game brings you into 6 different levels of death-defying, brain-teasing games, but at the same time are trying to tell you an amazing story as well. Now there are of course also a ton of other VR escape rooms out there, but this game stands out because of its thoughtful approach to some special VR interactions, and at the same time has an amazing world building that knows when to be consistent with our reality or to sometimes bend it to completely blow your mind. Now this is one of the best VR experiences that is out there right now. But besides that, I also definitely recommend to check out the first game in the series. And that gets us to number 22. Star Wars Vader Immortal, the trilogy. And this one is for all the Star Wars fans out there. Now Vader Immortal manages to put the whole Star Wars feeling into an experience that is just over 90 minutes. But even though this might not be one of the longest games out there, it does give you an amazing episodic series that provides a completely immersive VR experience that anyone can enjoy. Now you can fight with lightsabers and there's both a great story and excellent dojo mode. And did I already mention you can fight with lightsabers? And this is definitely a recommendation if you're a fan of the series. Number 21. That is Unplugged. This is a Guitar Hero style game mixed in with virtual reality, in which you have to strum notes arriving at the beat. But instead of holding a plastic peripheral in your hands, the Quest 2 version does it all entirely by using hand tracking. And even though this hand tracking is not always perfect, it really surprised me about how amazing this game actually worked. It almost feels like playing Beat Saber, but then with a guitar. And I'm sure the more advanced our hand tracking technology gets, the better these games will become as well. And on top of that, it feels pretty amazing, swinging an air guitar in virtual reality. Now on number 20, we got the game Lasernauts. If you enjoyed games like Overwatch, then you're definitely gonna enjoy this game as well. Though it did suffer from some problems at launch, it manages to bounce back to offer one of VR's deepest multiplayer shooters, where you can choose from a range of incredible different classes or specialists and enter into one of 3 game modes that can include death matches, but also capture the flag type games. Now what makes Lasernauts so special is that strategy is a big part of it as well, where the buildup of your team members, teamwork and communication plays a vital role in being able to win. So if that's the thing you're looking for, then Lasernauts is your game. Number 19 is Walkabout Mini Golf. This one surprised me as well, because I never expected to enjoy a mini golf game as much as I did with this one. Now besides its pinpoint physics that almost make it indistinguishable from the real thing, it also allows multiplayer and a lot of different courses that of course in virtual reality go way beyond what's possible in real life. And with all these different levels and teams, it makes it so addicting and competitive when you're playing this with friends. So for all your mini golf people out there, this is the one for you. Number 18. Moss. Now the game Moss has been a fan favorite ever since it launched in 2018. And this game is played in a third person's perspective, where you're trying to guide an adorable little mouse that is named Quill to different kind of levels while at the same time solving puzzles and taking on some fearsome foes in some sword-based combat. Now, the most amazing part of this game is the bond you're building with Quill over the course of the adventure. And it definitely has a unique feeling where you're playing as a larger companion to a tiny protagonist, instead of being the protagonist yourself. And while you're doing so, it almost feels like a multiplayer game where you have to work together to overcome obstacles. And while you're playing it, you can wait for the amazing sequel called Book 2 that is coming out soon as well. Number 17. Gorn. Now in this game you take on a series of gladiator battles, bashing, slashing, and slicing all your enemies with a variety of weapons that can go from wrist-mounted crossbows to Wolverine-style claws. Now this is another amazing physics-driven combat game, and even though it might sound silly, Gorn absolutely nails its weapon handling. They hit the hammer right on the head, pun intended. So if you like yourself some gladiator battles, make sure to check out Gorn. Number 16. Songs in the Smoke. Now there are a lot of different survival games out there for VR, but Songs in the Smoke take the prize on the Quest. Not just because it's an amazing game, but also because it's an incredible technical achievement on this platform. Because it has huge areas drenched with everything that you can imagine, ready to be explored. And you can jump between them seamlessly, near instant loading. And that is almost unheard of on the Quest 2. But in the game itself, it's also a perfect blend between crafting, resource gathering, and management, and an undertone of deep respect for nature itself, and making it one of the most satisfying and amazing survival games on the Quest 2. Number 15. Until You Fall. Now this hack and slash roguelike experience makes you feel stylish and cool while you're playing it. Now in this game you're tackling runs of randomized dungeons where you have to start over fresh every time you die. Now this fast moving progression system keeps the game rewarding and very addictive. While it's easy enough to pick up for new VR gamers, it is definitely difficult enough to master. And if you're looking for a VR game with some replay value that you want to play time and time again, then Until You Fall is definitely the game for you. Number 14. The Room VR, A Dark Matter. Now this game belongs to a series that is called The Room. Now over the years there have been many games out of this series, but VR is where it probably shines the brightest. Because in these games you get put into a room where you have to solve different puzzles and challenges to find a certain missing object or goal. Now what makes the Room VR work is its commitment to the platform it's appearing on. Because it isn't just a bunch of puzzles that you could just as well do on a traditional screen. But instead, each and every one of them has been thoughtfully invented with VR in mind. And this one is definitely perfect for those people that love escape rooms and solving mysteries. Number 13. Population 1. Now this is basically the Fortnite of VR done right, in this superb battle royale shooter. Now Population 1 takes place on a huge map of which teams of 3 battle it out to the last one standing. Now you can choose where you drop, scavenge for supplies, and make sure to stay in safe zones as you fight to survive. Not only is Population 1 a rock solid shooter, but it got some great VR mechanics as well. You can scale up walls with your hands, or you can hold out your arms to glide while you jump off a building. But if you are into battle royale shooters, it doesn't get more real than Population 1. Number 12. Echo VR. Now this is a game made by the amazing people behind Lone Echo. And the game Echo VR is a multiplayer zero gravity game where you take part in a futuristic esports event, throwing a disc to score points for your team. Now the easiest way to explain this is that it is basically competitive frisbee while floating in midair. Now the movement in this game is very fast and fluid, and you do want to make sure you don't have a problem with motion sickness. And even though this game has been out already for a while, it still has a massive multiplayer base that I'm sure will keep to continue growing in the future. Number 11. Ghost Giant. Now upon the first sight, Ghost Giant appears to be a charming little puzzler game that makes the most of the diorama-sized world, and in fact that is very much the case. It is an adorable papercraft world where you could help your young companion out with different chores and tasks, very similar to the other game like Moss. But on top of that, it also hides a thoughtful take on depression that is smartly communicated through VR. And the game uses intimacy, skill, and connection in engaging ways to bring you closer to the world and the characters around you, while at the same time trying to learn you something about the emotions and effect of depression itself. And that makes the story a lot deeper than most VR games on this list. Number 10. 11 Table Tennis. And yes, I see the fun of this not putting it on number 11. But I think if you want the most accurate and authentic representation of sports in virtual reality, then 11 Table Tennis is easily your best bet because the physics in this game work exactly the way you would expect in real life. And tapping the ball with your controller starts to feel as natural as if it was a real pedal. And of course, this is the most fun if you play it with some other people. And this is one of the very few rare experiences that feels like a genuine replacement for our reality. And of course, at the same time, being highly competitive. Number 9. A Township Tale. And though it still needs to fix a few bugs here and there, this game is definitely something special because it's incredibly detailed, asking players to build out a town by collecting resources, fending off enemies, and building better gear that will allow you to venture out further into the world. And though this game has many different aspects and has a steep learning curve, the game fosters an impressive community of passionate players that will teach you all about it. Now there is still a way to go to polish this game up even more, but it's already clear that Township Tales is one of the Quest 2 best games. And especially with such an amazing community behind it, I'm certain it's only gonna get better. Number 8. Beat Saber. Now of course I couldn't make a list without including Beat Saber. In this game, as you guys know, you're using your lightsabers to slash through blocks on some awesome beats. Now Beat Saber has been supported from day one by a massive community, and it's clear to see why it became such a hit, and it's by far one of the most energetic and addictive games out there. And the game often gets new music or game modes added to it, making it one of the essential games for your Quest 2 headset. So make sure you get out your swords to start slaying those blocks. Number 7. A Fisherman's Tale. Now this game took me by surprise, because if you want to recapture that magic moment of putting your headset on for the first time, then this is the game that makes you feel that way. Because A Fisherman's Tale is a mind-bending puzzle game unlike anything I've ever seen, where you have to solve interactive and skill-based puzzles in which you have to work with yourself. Now that means that while you're sitting inside the lighthouse environment, there's a tiny miniature model of the game itself sitting right next to you. That means if you lift off the roof of the model that you see in front of you, it also moves off the roof in your world as well. So just try to keep your brain from breaking as you hand yourself some giant objects or reach down to poke your own head. It is definitely some mind-blowing trip to say the least. And if you're into mind-bending puzzle games, then this is the game for you. Number 6. Onward. Now when playing Onward on the Quest, it is finally a wire-free gameplay that really comes onto its own. And even though it suffered some downgrades coming to the headset, this co-op shooter is definitely worth it. With a fierce competition of people playing this game that are trying to push the boundaries of VR. So if you're looking for an online competitive shooter, then Onward is the way to go. Number 5. Pistol Whip, which is a sharpshooting beat-based gameplay that is basically a combination of a shooter and Beat Saber combined. In other words, it's highly addictive. Now you're put into a streamed-down corridor with some amazing beats while you're trying to avoid incoming fire from all the bad guys while racking up the best score. And while you're playing this, you literally feel like you're John Wick himself. Number 4. Resident Evil 4 VR. Now many of us had our doubts when Resident Evil 4 was coming to VR, but it ended up being one of the best Quest 2 games ever made, with a first-person view and full motion control support. And though it is true that some elements of the game, like virtual cutscenes, don't hold up as much as we would have hoped for, but when you're facing an immense amount of enemies with your back literally against the wall, you forget about that real quick. And it's one of the best ways to revisit a classic game. And I can't wait to see other big games being officially ported to the Quest 2 as well. Number 3. Demeo. Now this is a tabletop game made for virtual reality. And this is for all the Dungeons and Dragons lovers out there. Because this tabletop game allows you to have a first-rate 4-player VR experience. Not on a flat screen, but in VR itself. But the game's punishing difficulty means sessions can last anywhere from a couple minutes to multiple hours. And this game really gives you that Dungeon and Dragon feel, but now makes it look even more fantastic. Number 2. Super Hot VR. Now this is one of the oldest games on this list, and yet, even 4 years later, it is still easily the best example of how VR can give us entirely new gaming experiences. Now in this cinematic shooter, time moves only when you're moving. So if you're sitting still, the world will freeze around you as well. But if you move your body, so will everything else jolt back to life. And that basically makes it your own Matrix simulator. Now, what makes this game such an amazing hit is the amazing design of the game itself. From last minute gun grabs to well-placed knife throws, the game constantly gives you an amazing feeling and delivers this through its vast amount of actions. And for a lot of people, this is their first VR game that truly made them see how amazing VR really is. And that gets us to number 1, which is The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners. Now, in this zombie survival VR game, you're not just in a sandbox or wave-based shooter, but instead, it has a full-fledged VR campaign that lets you trek to the remains of a wild wilderness. Add in the human enemies, side missions, and even the ability to kill a zombie with a spoon. Yes, with a spoon. Yes, you can. And you have one of the deepest native VR games that is on the market right now. And with its arguably best design and user interaction you will find in VR, this game doesn't just set the bar for zombie VR games, but basically for the entire VR community. With its ridiculously entertaining physics-based combat that lets you wrestle with an immense amount of zombies, throwing every ounce of effort you can muster into your swings and stabs. And with that, it concludes the top 24 best VR games for the Quest 2.